The DuPont secret they buried before anyone found out. Shorts, 862 words. In 1961, DuPont's own scientists watched lab rats develop liver damage from a chemical called C8, and they told no one. Not the EPA, not the public, not the thousands of families in Parkersburg, West Virginia, who would spend the next 4 decades drinking it. 29 years later, DuPont's own studies confirmed C8 was already in their blood. So why has almost no one ever heard this story? DuPont was America's chemistry company. Teflon nonstick pans in every kitchen, stain-proof carpets, waterproof jackets, a brand that felt as safe and ordinary as flour. For decades, DuPont marketed itself as the company that made modern life easier, the folks who brought better living through chemistry into your home. Parkersburg loved them. DuPont was the town's biggest employer, its little league sponsor, its lifeline. Nobody there thought to ask what was actually coming out of the plant's smokestacks, or what was seeping into the Ohio River a few hundred yards from the Washington Works facility. Here are the names and dates. In 1984, DuPont scientists at Washington Works measured C8 levels in local tap water and found them far above the company's own internal safety limit. They didn't shut anything down. In a private meeting that same year, DuPont executives decided to keep dumping C8-laced wastewater into the Ohio River and burying tons of C8 sludge in unlined pits near the plant. Internal memos, later unearthed by attorney Rob Bilott, show DuPont knew by the late 1980s that C8 caused cancer, birth defects, and organ damage in animal testing. They set their own internal safe exposure limit. Then they quietly dumped at levels many times higher, into a watershed feeding 6 water districts and roughly 100,000 people. The decision was made in boardrooms in Wilmington, Delaware, far from anyone who'd actually drink the water. Here's how they covered it. When farmer Wilbur Tennant's cattle started dying gruesome deaths near his Parkersburg farm in the late 1990s, turning black-toothed, hemorrhaging, going mad, DuPont's own veterinarian concluded the company's landfill runoff was the cause. That report vanished into DuPont's files instead of a regulator's desk. Local doctors noticed the same pattern and stayed quiet. Regulators at the EPA never got real data because DuPont classified C8 as a trade secret, exempting it from disclosure. For years, the company's public statements insisted C8 was safe as used, while its own toxicologist's internal reports said the exact opposite in writing. But that's not even the part they really didn't want out. When Rob Bilott finally forced DuPont into a class action settlement in 2004, it required an independent science panel to actually study what C8 was doing to the 70,000 people in the affected water districts. That panel spent 7 years reviewing medical records for nearly 70,000 residents. The result: probable links between C8 exposure and kidney cancer, testicular cancer, thyroid disease, ulcerative colitis, pregnancy-induced hypertension, and high cholesterol. Testicular cancer rates near Parkersburg were measured at multiples of the national average. Internal DuPont documents showed the company had detected C8 in the blood of pregnant employees as early as 1981, then quietly transferred those employees rather than warn the broader public. By the time the full truth surfaced, DuPont had known for over 2 decades that C8 didn't break down. It stayed in blood and water essentially forever. That's why scientists now call it a forever chemical. DuPont eventually paid over $670 million to settle personal injury claims from thousands of sick residents, and its spin-off Chemours took on billions more in liability. The company that sold America nonstick pans had, for decades, been the source of one of the largest contaminated water crises in U.S. history. And yet, nobody went to prison. Not one DuPont executive who approved dumping above their own safety threshold ever faced criminal charges. The mechanism protecting them was simple. Environmental law treated this as a civil matter, not a criminal one, and trade secret protections let DuPont hide C8's danger from regulators for years without technically breaking any disclosure rule. The executives who made the 1984 decision retired with pensions intact. DuPont itself restructured, spinning off its chemical liabilities into Chemours in 2015, a corporate maneuver that let the parent company distance itself from the very mess it created. Regulators didn't even push for a phase-out of PFOA until 2006, and it was voluntary, not a ban, giving the industry years to simply swap one forever chemical for another nearly identical one. That substitute chemical, Gen-X, is now showing up in water supplies near those same facilities, and early studies suggest it may carry similar risks. The system that let DuPont bury C8 for decades, trade secret shields, civil-only penalties, corporate spin-offs that outrun liability, is still fully intact today. No law was changed to make this impossible to repeat. So somewhere right now, in a boardroom, you will never see the inside of another decision like the one made in 1984 might already be getting made. The only real question left is whether anyone will find the memo before it's 40 years too late.